Without a
yes.
Okay, well, the mic becomes annoying at times, so let's kill it. My friend Suzanne Hughes does the programming, so I was privy to what workshops we had, and all the workshops we had were computer workshops, they were digital workshops, there was nothing tangible. So I decided that we needed to have something that was tangible, something that was really hands-on. So I came up with a stereo window as my talk today. Now, if you go out on the internet and Google stereo window, you're going to find some really nice presentations. Shab Levy has one out there. They're quite sophisticated and very professional. Some of you who've come to more than one convention know that Ernie Reardon had a great movable, slidable set of images so you could watch the stereo window move back and forth. Bob Brackett had a rig so he could put the slide in his dissolver and slide it back and forth. It's really quite nice. This is not going to be like that at all. This is, if you ever go to college, you got math 100, math 150. There's the math 90, okay? This is stereo window 90.
Remedial.
No, remedial. No. Just to start at the beginning. Most things don't start at the beginning. This is the stereo window, and definitions of stereo window look something like this. Stereo window is a term used to describe the relationship of objects represented in stereo three-dimensional images to the perceived plane of the two images. This is the kind of definition that you can only understand if you already know what it is. It's of no value whatsoever to tell you anything. So I decided to define it this way, visually, in a tactile way. And I'm really talking about the stereo window for something like projected theater. In a theater, you project some light through a polarizer through the image. It bounces off the screen, and you've got your little glasses, and you see the polarized image. And it's a square thing. It's a rectangle. It's rectangular. It's got a fixed shape. And a key thing for what we're going to be talking about is the viewable screen has edges that are in the normal range of vision. Okay, that's the real key thing about this. And it's a simple thing. Everybody's familiar with it. Everybody has suffered from window violations, and you've looked at it and said, my goodness, it's blinking, That's usually a sign you've got a little problem with the window. I'm also going to use some terms and to make Ron Lappy happy. I'll use the word film chip. But that can either be a little piece of film, or it can be a rectangular array of pixels recorded by a sensor onto some form of memory medium. That would make me go beyond the 10 o'clock time if I had to say all the time. So I'm going to say film chip, but it doesn't really make any difference. It's a rectangular thing that represents an image that you've procured in some fashion or other. And if we talk about moving a film chip, that's the same as taking your little hand, selecting it, and getting the little hand and sliding it over. Okay, so it's all the same thing. One must say applies to the whole genre of different kinds of ways of representing 3D images, whether it's view-magic or lenticular's left. It applies to lenticular too, but we seem to have left lenticular off. It's all on there. Okay, now this is, everybody knows all about this, but this is stereo window 90. So we don't take anything for granted. So you need to take your finger or pointer and you need to shut one eye, then the other, and you watch your pointer jump. Now it's best not to put it on a blank, long wall. It's nice to have something there so it hops back and forth. You move closer, hops more. The closer it is to your little nose, the more parallax you have. If you have really long arms, it doesn't hop so much. That's parallax, and that's really what gives you the 3D. You don't have parallax, you don't have 3D. And that's just to start with. Now, I want to go the right direction. Okay, everybody's got their own window, and everybody's got a pointer. And this is a lot bigger than the average film chip. And that's so we can tell the difference. And my differences are going to be exaggerated. If you've ever mounted your film and you have that little thing, and you check it and you move it over like this little bitty far, well, you can't see that up here if I had it up here. So we got a big window. So some of the things will be exaggerated. Also, most people don't have a 7 or 8 foot arm, so that you've got some limitations there. So things will hop around. It just makes it easier to see. Now, if you hold this out about half an arm's length, that's key. Half an arm's length. I say left hand. If you're right-handed, you just do it the opposite. You got a scale along the bottom. That's going to be our reference. We're going to use that. That's our yardstick. And those things are just, unfortunately, a tad more than an inch. They're about an inch, though. And we're going to define a left eye view. Left eye view is when you got your left eye open, and a right eye view is when you got your right eye open. Okay? And the other one's shut. And that's what we mean by left eye and right. All right, now we're going to have a warm-up. Before we really get to this, I want you to look at this side. I want you to look at the 0 side of this thing, and I want you to look at it with your right eye kind of near the edge than the left eye. Amazingly enough, your right eye sees more, right? Did you see what we're saying? Your left eye, your right eye. Just keep your head fixed, keep the window fixed. With your left eye, I can just see the flag. The right eye, I see way over here. And it's just like in this image here. And that is the famous concept that your right eye sees more on the left-hand side. And if you ever read things that Dr. T writes, that's his favorite expression just about. And our rule is going to be, if it doesn't show up inside that gray perimeter, you don't see it. So something that's out here, you don't see, okay? That's our rule. It's got to be in that frame in order to see it. Okay, now we're going to do something that's going to sound a bit silly, but I want to make a point and get you practiced up for the difficult parts coming up. Get your pointer out here. I take the pointer and put it right there at 3.5. And you shut your right eye, do left eye view, right eye view. What is the position of the pointer? It's the same, right? Whether you're looking at the left eye or right eye, it's 3.5, whichever view. Move it over to half. Yeah, same thing, 6.5. Well, it's kind of a dumb thing to say, well, of course it's the same. What it says is basically an object or a point that is the same distance away from the left-hand side of your frame, right-hand side in the right eye view, it's going to be at the window. It's really the distance from the left-hand side of the frame is going to tell you is it on the window, is it not. On this scale, the measurement, the distance from the left is the same when you have it right up against it. So that's really the key. Things that are the same distance from the left, they're on the window. In fact, you do that all the time if you have one of Penske's little gauges. And the little gauge, you ever see that? It's got a mark here, and it's got 2 marks over here. Well, those 2 marks are exactly as far apart as the 2 frames on a realist mount are, and that's how you check to see if these little chips are in the same position. So we're really just mimicking that. Over here we see that's pretty dull. Okay, anybody can figure that out. Now let's do something tricky. Okay? Is everybody ready? Well, everybody passed the previous test, okay? Hold out about halfway out. Hold about in the middle. And, well, that's the wrong one. Hold it about 4 inches out. And shut you do a right eye view, left eye view. The difference, you see the readings? The reading of the right is about, it's about one bigger, right? Left eye, right eye. So on mine, the left eye is about 3 1/4. Right eye, it's about 4. Depends on how long your arms are and how far away you are. So it's about 1/2 or 3/4 larger measurement than the right. Now, Remember, there's a reason why you had your hand, you held it halfway out. Pull out as far as you can. Do the same thing. Have it stick up a little bit. It's like about 4.5, about 3. So that's about an inch and a half difference. As you get further back, that difference between the distance on the left and the right eye view gets larger. Okay, the right hand number is bigger. I'm measuring off the left side. Does everybody see that? Now, find the vertical point as far away as you possibly can and do the same thing. So here I'm looking at that one corner over there, and it's a 2, and now it's a 4.5. Okay, everybody, it'll be somewhere in that range. It depends upon how far away the object is and how far your eyes are apart. Guess what? That is how far your eyes are apart. We're measuring the distance because you're looking out parallel, okay? We're close to it. It's not an infinite-sized room, so you can't do it. You see how that works? Basically, if we had some way far yonder, and you were really good at doing this, you would see that that difference is about 3 inches, 2.5 to 3 inches. Does everybody understand what we're doing here? Does it make any sense? The further it is away, the wider it gets. But it's never going to get any wider than how far your eyes are apart. Now, some people know exactly how far they're apart because they've looked in the mirror with a little measuring thing. And it varies. It'll vary from 2.5 inches to 3.25, something like that. So everybody's going to get a little different answer. Okay. So it looks kind of like this. Basically, the smiley face is at the window because there it is, 1 4/10, 1 4/10. This is a mountain in the background. It's right at about 3 in the left eye view. It's almost 4 in the right eye view. And our star out here is about 3 inches apart. Okay? And that's, if you ever pick up a stereo card and you can't free view, you can tell which one the left-hand view is and the right-hand view. Notice this is right at the front. Look at something right behind it. This will be a shorter distance here. It'll be a bigger distance here because this is a bigger number. Okay? So you just look at it. That's how you can tell easily if you can't free view. You just look at a close-up object and something near to it on the right. The short distance is the left view. The bigger one is the right because the right point is a little further out. Okay? Exciting yet? No. Yeah, this is exciting. This is behind the window. Now I got an exercise, just like in math books. This is a tricky thing. What you're going to do is something like this. You're going to move this. You're going to take a right eye view. So close your left eye, move your pointer over to about 1/4 so it's just visible. Now do a left eye view. You lose it, right? You lose, but does it bother you when you look at it like this? No, because your mind sees that all the time when you look out a physical window. It's not upset. Your mind, even though it may not know what a stereo window is, knows that this is cool. It disappears in the left eye view, shows up in the right hand view. Okay? So that's not a problem at all. Your eyes are just happy as can be with that. And if you do it for the right hand side, it works the same way, obviously. And that's what you've done now. Okay. Now we come to the more interesting part, even more fascinating than the other part about the distances of the right hand further to the right. What if you go in front of the window? Well, here again, we're going to start off and we're going to hold it about halfway out. We're going to take this point and we're going to put it about 4 inches in front. We close our left eye, it's about 4. Oh my gosh, it's the opposite way. That's only 3 1/4 in my right eye. It's 4 with my left eye. Is that what you get? It's flipped around. It's backwards because you're in front of the window. And you can, of course, move it closer. Do that same thing. And it's a bigger number. So it operates exactly like being behind, only the numbers are different. You got the right-hand side's bigger. You need a stereo window and a pointer. Okay, now if you move it real close, this goes nuts. And in fact, you probably can't even focus, if you have both eyes open, you can't even focus on the pointer, because it's, you see two of them. Okay, so that's basically, if an identical point, if you have an identical point in the two images, and in the right-hand image, it's to the left of where the other one is, the chip's smaller number, and you tell that a distance away from the left-hand side, it's in front of the window. Is that bad? Is that good? Well, it's neither bad nor good. We just have to talk about it a little bit. Okay, we just did that. Okay. Now, we've got an exercise. This is a cool exercise. This starts problems with windows. Take your left eye view. Have your left eye open. Move be about 4 inches away. Move it right over to the left-hand edge. You got to be steady. Then, take the right eye view. What happens? It's gone, right? You can see it, but it's not in the visible range. You got to move it real close. In the right eye view, it's off. It's in this part of it. You can't see it. Remember what we said before? This is the memory test. Your right eye sees more on the left. It's disappeared. Your mind does not like that one bit. That's a problem. That's a major window violation. Your mind, it's okay if your right eye sees a little on the left that the left one doesn't. That's a standard thing. But this is not right. Okay? That is a window violation. And it's a window violation because your mind just gets disturbed by that. It doesn't expect it. It doesn't like it. And that's how you have to get real close and you'll see it. Is everybody... Okay. Cropping. Well, in the real world, things happen. They shouldn't happen. That's why we have a don't sign. This is what you don't do. That little red don't sign. You see, we got a problem. We got a window violation. We got a window violation because, this thing is right here at about 0.9, and over here it's about 0.7. It doesn't look like much of a difference, but that's what makes those slides look really awful on the screen when the flower leaf is out there. So we got a problem. The little smiley guy's still at the window. He's cool. So what can you do about this? You've taken a wonderful picture. You got a window violation. Your friends are not generous towards you. They remind you of that when you go to the club meeting. People hiss and boo and things like that. So you want to fix it. Well, there are a couple ways of fixing that. One way is to do it. You can't see the blue very well. You just get one. You call up John Gold and say, "Hey, send me one of the narrow mounts." You make your space. You don't move anything. You just lop it off. You crop it. You make a smaller space. Okay? You get the mount, and instead of it being 2.15 wide, it's now 1.95 wide, and just get rid of it. No problem. As long as as long as you don't really want anything over here. Now, if you are digital, you just take your little rectangular select tool and you make a smaller frame, and you can do that in Stereo Photo Maker. It allows you to grab it, and you just make it's just not quite as wide, and you can fill in, and it'll put black space on both sides, and it's easy to do. So it's easy to get rid of. You lose what's over there. Now, suppose you don't want to lose what's over there. You got other ways of fixing that. If you happen to have film, what you do is you take your film and you push it. You slide it. You physically slide it on over so that you do see more on the right. Now that only, if you've ever mounted film, you know you can do that until you come to the unfortunate white space when you've run out of film chip. You've got a little leeway. You don't have a lot of leeway. Last night we saw a slide that Charlie presented where we had a little white strip. Remember the white strip last night? That white strip is when he ran out of film, but he still wanted to have it in there. So what we do is we make sure that we can do that, and that'll work, but you only have so much leeway. So try not to get these things that are too close. In a realist world, this thing is just closer than 7 feet. And on the edge. Okay? Now, If you slide it over, you can run into a few other problems. If we take a look at this, now we lost a little pointer there. This fella, what I've done is I've taken these two frames and slapped them right down on top of each other, just like you would if you were projecting. And now, this don't sign is pretty much right at the window after I moved it over. My smiley face is not at the window. Is it ahead of or behind the window? Well, the green one happens to be the left view, so it's behind a little bit. There's a problem. What's the problem? Remember, our star was exactly our eye width apart. What did we just do? We slid it over. So now how far apart is it? It's more. It has to be by the additive properties of mathematics. Remember Math 90? Same thing. We've added some to all those numbers on the right side. Just that little bit to get this fellow okay. And here are our eyes. You can see what they're doing. Kind of hard to see at this scale. They got to kind of go like this. Do our eyes like to go like that? No. They don't like to do this. Now, you can do a little bit of it. This is where that mounting to the window or mounting to infinity comes up. I mount to the window because I don't usually have to slide it very much. So it's not too bad. Some other people always mount to infinity because they don't want your eyes going, wandering back and forth. As long as you don't slide it much, and usually you don't have to move much, you're okay. Well, I say that. Some other people would find that a very offensive statement. There are different camps. But you're probably okay in this one. But you got to be careful when you do that. We're about ready to come up. Okay, let's do a case where we can really get in trouble with digital. Here we have a tree on the top. And a quick look at that tree says that tree's going to be a problem. Why is it going to be a problem? Because all you see is just the bottom part of the tree. You don't see the top part of the tree, and it's sticking way in front of the window. Because instead of this image being to the right of this position, that distance right there is way bigger than that. So that's going to be a huge problem. So how do you fix it? It's easy. You call up John Golden again, and you get a reduced height frame, and you crop it out. Or in the old days, if you're mounting on glass, you just get your piece of silver mylar tape, and you make you bring it on down. People just, I've never done it. I don't have the patience. It's really tough to make those match up between one to the other. You're digital, you think, I am digital, I am king. So what do? You take your little tool and go whoosh, 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 and then it matches it in Stereo Photo Maker, and then if you do it right, you maybe have that button says that keep my aspect ratio, right? Stereo Photo Maker, you can make it so it always stays the same width, and then you hit the magic button that says fill, and it expands it up so that it's the same size as all your slides, so you don't have one slide like this and one slide like this, and have them all jostling around. But what have you just done? You have just done that. When you go in there and you crop out that tree by doing a grab, by doing a new box, and then you blow it up. What is blowing up? Blowing up means getting bigger. So what used to be the equivalent of eye distance is now eye distance plus whatever you did. So if you got a big old honker tree up here and you do that blow up, you're going to be creating infinity points that are pretty far apart. And because it's all automatic, a lot of times you don't even notice it because it's so easy, So be careful. Anytime you go in there into a digital world and get a subset of something that's a lot smaller, and then you blow it up to the right size, you better be darn careful if you have infinity in it. If you don't have infinity in it, it's not such a problem because it may look a little different because you may think it's enlarged or giantized or miniaturized, but your eyes won't have to necessarily diverge on it. So be careful. The problem about digital is everything's really easy. So it's really easy to make mistakes. It makes them automatically. You never even look at it. You got to sit there and slide that puppy. You have a better recognition of that. Okay? Now, is it bad going through the window? No. Like right here. This is through the window. How do I know it's through the window? Because I got my magic scale here, and that's a bigger number than that number, so it's coming through the window. But what does it do that's okay? It doesn't touch the outside. No problem. No problem at all. If you're trying to freeview these are done with the precision of hand drawing in a PowerPoint. So you may have a challenge in your hands for that part. This comes through the window. The only problem you have is, remember how you had a little trouble seeing your nose, we got real close. If you try, your eyes have to look this way and that way. They have to concentrate and kind of cross to see the thing that's in front of the window. And then you got the point at infinity out there, so it can put a little challenge on it. It's nice to do for effect, and everybody's seen the ping pong ball and the arrows coming through. But if you do it all the time, it's a real eye exercise, and you want to be careful about that. But there's nothing wrong with it. It's not a window violation. It's just something coming through the window. It's just a lot of extra exercise for the eyes. Okay? Any questions? Or derogatory comments or anything? We'll say those to the end, okay? We'll do the whole thing without the derogatory comments. Okay, so let's look at something that is pretty common. Suppose you have two cameras. You have a two-camera rig, which is typical for digital, until we get the amazing, wonderful Fuji camera that they have locked down and armed guards on, for good reason. It just looks so great. But we don't have that right now. So we have individual cameras, and in an individual camera, that's not really your eye, that's really a lens, and it's right in the middle of that frame, and it just looks straight on out. And I call it the wall-eyed view. You see a wall-eyed world. You got this thing, and well, what are you going to do with it? You got to mount it. Let's just talk about being a chip, but it's the same thing if you have a digital version, and there's absolutely no difference. That little dotted line there is just to say I'm like smack dab in the middle. It's not in the picture or anything. Well, I happen to know my smiley face was the person standing in front, so I can kind of think of, well, let's just drop a little line here, and we see that, well, we can't just leave it like this. This is not going to, we really would like to have that person be kind of at the window. They're definitely not at the window here. We'll assume there's some riffraff out here, but that means we don't want to just mount it like this. That'd be way in front of the window. You probably couldn't even view that. So let's look at it and see what would you do on that? Well, it's easy because we have our magic scale, which is right here on your stereo window. And so if I put that scale down there, I've got to slide these scales over so that that point is right at the window. I mount to the window all the time, and I didn't do too good of a job on this. I ran out of space. I'd have to have a narrow one to really make this work. But you see what we're doing here? I mean, because there's a huge difference here. This is way too big of a difference. I've got a little trouble fitting this thing in. I've got to use every bit of film I have to get this one in, about every bit of film right there. But that's where the scales will line up. And the next image. There we go. This would be my frame. This would be how I would mount it. And because my cameras are a little ditzy and everything, I've got a little bit of film I would not be using here, and a bunch out here, and then some out the other side. Any question about what I would have done here? That's the way I would slip this in to my RBT. This is the way I would go in if I were doing it manually within the stereo photo maker. This is how I would slide it in. Then I'd put this one in like this, and then this like this. And actually I had to do a little playing around, because I had to play around for this to get it to actually line up and not run out of film. Okay? So, on a stereo realist, you've only got 5 sprockets. You don't have much film. You really can't waste all that film. So how did they get around that problem? What they did was they took the film gate and they didn't put it right in front of the axis of the lens. They did it so you kind of got that part of it and this part of it, and they lined that difference up so that something at 7 feet, when you take your chips and lay them down on top of each other, those 2 points will be right in the same spot. So they helped you out because they slid their lens center line with respect to the opening for the film, so that you would get something that would allow you to not waste all that film. And pretty much if you slap them down on top of each other, like Kodak used to do, when you had a mounting service, they didn't line those things up. They lined up the first one, they just went chunk, 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 chunk after that. And it's because you've done that, and that's where the 7 feet comes from in a realist. And they say that the windows at 7 feet is because of that difference in alignment. You offset each one just a tad so that when the image comes in, you get that alignment. Okay? Now, the bottom one is for all of you who use Stereo Photomaker. If you use two cameras, you have to set the window. Stereo Photomaker will do it automatically for you. It does it just as well as Kodak mounted slides. Okay? You could get a good one. Usually you got average ones. They were good enough to look at in a red button viewer. Every once in a while you got one that was a real cropper. I don't know if you saw Steve Hughes's show the other day. He had one where Stereo Photomaker just goes nuts. If you have a 3D Advantage or any other kind of special deal in your camera, sometimes, well, Stereo Photomaker doesn't like those things. It doesn't like 3D Advantage at all. Because every once in a while I'll get an image, when I run it automatically, where they aren't even rectangular in shape. There'll be semicircles. There'll be all kinds of weird stuff. My point is that Stereo Photomaker is great to figure out which ones you want to precision mount. Just like using the Kodak mounting service was great. You know, you give it to them, they mount them all, no effort. You look at all 27 ones you get out of your roll, and you figure out the 3 or 4 that you're going to take apart and you're going to mount properly. And that's what Stereo Photomaker is for. Don't expect, Stereo Photomaker doesn't know 7 feet or anything. It doesn't know nothing. I mean, it does an amazing job. It has to guess. It doesn't know 7 feet. It does a good job of getting the first start, but you're the one who has to precision mount. And that's why you see a lot of bad windows in digital, because the people have done it automatically, and it's pretty good, but it's not great. And I'm pretty good at using my little slide mounting rig. I can precision mount a slide, and then I go check it on my projector. When I try to use Stereo Photomaker, I'm not as good at it yet. I'm still back in the days when I was Palooka doing my film chips, and I don't have the ability to do a polarized version of it. If you are still having trouble with the digital and you can't precision mount, the way to test it, if you have one LCD projector, go ahead, hook it up, and use the anaglyph version of it and project it. At least for me on the screen, when it's so small, I just can't see. When you project it up there, even though it won't be quite as good, when it's really big, it's a little easier for me to see that yes, I do have a lack of precision mounting. Anyway, that is the end of the stereo window. You all have your stereo window. I hope that this has been, at least in some respect, interesting. If you have any questions or attacks, I was wanting George to be here, as I'm sure he would. Yes?
You've mentioned several times on the stereo realist camera the windows at 7 feet. Is there some advantage to having things mounted to a 7-foot window, or can we vary that window distance?
You can vary that window all you want. The issue, though, is remember, as you vary that window, you got to see what happens to your infinity separation. Remember, the closer in that comes, the more infinity is going to have to spread. If we go back, that's really, here is that shot. Basically, this was something that was closer than 7 feet. And I had to spread it. It's their balance. They picked 7 as a number that would still allow them to project on the projectors and screens of that time and still have infinity not too far away. If you've ever done a macro, I mean, things go squirrely. Once you start coming in, now our arms aren't 7 feet long, but if you even have a 3.5 foot long arm, you probably don't want to have infinity in there. You better wipe it out. If you're doing flowers, or something like that, and you're shooting here and everything's in focus, those flowers in the middle, they'll be so far apart you cannot conceivably view it, and it really is difficult. And that's really the reason. It's because you're constrained by the infinity points. A lot about, like in this room, there is no infinity. There's almost infinity. That's a lot better than infinity. You get in a smaller room, you know, you might get some miniaturization, giantism kind of things about it, but it's not going to spread the infinity because it's not there. And that'd be my take on all these things. There are many more than one opinion on some of these subjects, but basically, you start getting closer to 7 feet, you better start getting rid of the infinity.
And keeping the aspect ratio, instead of cutting off the top, if you have enough leeway in the picture, can you just move it down? Couldn't you?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
I mean, you can move it down, but remember, anytime you then hit the magic button that says fill out and expand,
Yeah.
every number gets bigger.
Okay.
So you need to go back. Now, it makes some difference. So, you know, what are you projecting on? The days that they came up with this, you know, 2.4 millimeter difference, you know, they were projecting this screen here, and they were all sitting up close. You know, you then come over here to a 9:16 screen, and the people are sitting how far away? Well, you know, the further you are away, if you think of it, you know, if you're trying to look at some points that are separated by 2 feet, which is a lot more than your eyeball, you get up close to it, and your eyes got to go like this. You get back a little further, you get 40 feet back, and you just got a little bit. Your eyes can diverge a little bit. The other is true too. Last night, if you were at the banquet and you saw the 6-foot screen, and you were sitting at the back of the room, you didn't have a whole lot of 3D because you're just way, way outside that sweet spot. Other questions or contributions? Okay, well that is all I have. I hope that, and you can keep your story.